Y'all doing well this morning? Come on now. Y'all doing well? Okay. All right. You're in church. You're in a good place. You're going to be encouraged today. I hope you're ready for it. We are on part 2 of We Are Contributors, Not Consumers. We're contributors, not only consumers. It is important to consume something or else you wouldn't be able to function, and we talked a little bit about that last week. Today, we're going to look at some awesome verses out of 1 Peter chapter 4 and how it applies to us with this conversation that we're having about we are going to be contributors and not consumers. Now, our staff did a little bit of homework, and we looked at the trends of our church, and I know that some of this could be the fact that we are growing as a church, but there's some statistics that I think that would be, there's one statistic in particular that I think would be interesting for you, that we would want to know as we're talking about this thing about being contributors, not only consumers. We have, on an average basis, 350 regular attenders. Now, that's different than members. I'm saying regular attenders. 350 people call this place home. There's another 50 of y'all that are trying to figure out if this is where you want to call home, and we totally get that. But we're looking at those who regularly call this place home. Of those 350 folks that call this place home, 41% are actively serving somewhere. So that means that 140 people out of 350 are actively serving. That means that today, we're going to continue to encourage that 41%, but also encourage the 59% to take action. Are y'all ready to do that? We got some amens. All right, sweet. I want to address not just the 41, not just the 59, but I want to address everybody. And if you're part of the 50 or so that are trying to figure out if this is where you're supposed to be landing or if this is where you want to land, I'm talking to you too. Because I think it's important to be active. It's important to be involved. It's important to be included and part of something that is bigger than yourself. Right? That's what we live for. That's what we want to be a part of, something that's bigger than ourselves. So today we're going to look at some really good verses, and we've got a jam-packed morning, so I'm just going to jump right into it. Nothing pretty or no fun introduction or anything like that. We're just jumping right into the scriptures, okay? How many of y'all have turned to 1 Peter chapter 4? Okay. If y'all want to continue, if you want to join us, just thumb your way there while we read this. We're going to read 1 Peter chapter 4. We're going to start in verse 7. And it starts really encouraging. The end of all things is near. It's a great start. Listen, y'all, it's about to all be done, okay? Life is about to be finished as we know it. The end of all things is near. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind so that you may pray. Above all, love each other deeply because love covers a multitude of sins. Offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. No pressure. If anyone serves, they should do it with the strength God provides so that in all things God may be praised through Christ Jesus. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. Jesus, we open our hearts to you, we open our minds to you, and we ask that the power of your word would do that unique work where it's convicting yet compelling, where it causes us to see where we are so that we will know where we want to go. And so, Jesus, I pray for everybody in this room, whether they call this place home, whether they're new here, or whether trying to figure out whether they want to call this place home, Lord, I pray that your word would speak to us all today and that we would be encouraged and that we would be moved to serve, that we would be moved to contribute and not just consume. I pray these things over us today. In Jesus' mighty name, if you agree with that prayer, give me a stout amen. That's good. The end of all things is near. It's such a positive way to start today. Hey, y'all, we're about to just go away. Just in case any of you want to really be encouraged today, you're about to be done. All right, the end of all things is near. What that statement does is it's a perspective shaping statement for us. Don't we live in this immediacy of today? We just live for right here, right now, and we don't understand a lot of times. We don't live in the reality that, it really could be any time. And now I've lived enough days of my life where I've heard all kinds of preachers, and some of those phrases are an encouragement to live with purpose. Others have the tone of fearing you into living right. And I don't want to land on the second one. I want to land on the way of, let's make sure that what we're doing is what we ought to be doing. If we find ourselves busy with nonsense, let's drop the nonsense and pursue the things that God would have us to pursue. So the end of all things is near is a perspective shaping statement, right? How many of y'all would agree that the end of all things is near? Whether you agree with it or not, it is. We don't know when. It's up to His timing. So what should we be doing in that time frame? What should we be doing leading up to the end? Since the end is near, be alert and of sober mind. Be alert and of sober mind. What's the opposite of that? What's the opposite of being alert? What's the opposite of having a sober mind? Well, the sober mind part is, so if I think of sobriety, I also think of the antithesis of that being your mind is intoxicated. Are we guilty of having just a mind that's full of something else, that's altering its thinking? Think about the things that you think about. And if it doesn't help you to have a sober mind, then we've got to do this extracting work. Because if we're thinking on and feeding on stuff that makes our mind convoluted and just cloudy, we're not going to be focusing on the things that He wants us to be doing. It's pretty simple, right? But it's so subtle. It's so subtle of the things that we think about. The things that we land on. I'm talking about, how many of you just have a couch or a chair on negative thoughts? You just get comfortable in negativity. You get comfortable even in sin. That's a really comfortable spot for your mind to land. He's saying, be alert and of sober mind. Don't make your couch wrapped up and situated in stuff that's going to cloud it up. That could be anger, resentment, unforgiveness, just stuff. Don't make your home there. And be alert. That means don't be apathetic. Don't just be careless and carefree. Be alert and attentive. That's why sleep is so important. There's a lot of times where scriptures it talks about God entering God's rest. It doesn't mean that you're dead. It means that you're able to rest. We have issues of resting. And then we don't understand why our minds aren't thinking clearly. It's probably because we're not resting well. When you have been able to rest well, then you're able to be alert. Why are those two things important? Well, quite simply, it's because we live around people. And when we're not alert, and when we're couching it on negativity or just whatever, other than others, we're not living the life that we've been called to live. Be alert and of a sober mind. So that, and more specifically, it's not just about serving others, so that you'll know how to pray. I'm not perfect at this. Sometimes I feel more inclined to share my failures than my successes. But I had one of those alert moments this past Friday when we were at Cedar Point for Aubrey's birthday. I just think that's a great place to celebrate birthdays because if the kids aren't having fun, at least the parents can. And anyways, I was walking out to the car, and I noticed that there was somebody who was just, they didn't have any kind of cast or anything on, but they were clearly in pain as they walked. And now something as subtle as this, I just said, Lord, surprise her today with a healing. Now I didn't hear her say, oh my goodness, I've been healed. That must be Jesus. I didn't see that happen at Cedar Point. Revival didn't break out. Rides didn't stop, and people flood to the gate and just hear someone preach. But I was just alert to pray for someone. How powerful of a thing that is for us to walk in our communities, walk at work, walk in your home, and just be alert and attentive enough to pray. That's being a contributor, y'all. That's not just consuming. That's not just landing on what feeds you and what you need. That's being aware of your surroundings and what God has given you the capacity to do, where you're able to respond to the things that are going on around you. Right? But if we aren't alert, and if our mind is intoxicated, we aren't going to know what to pray. We're not going to know how to engage the realities around us. And it's not a personality thing. I'm not talking about in the moment of trauma where we all respond differently in these moments of trauma. Like, if somebody just falls out and hits their head on the floor, some people will respond, others are just paralyzed, others will run out the room because if they look at it, they're going to pass out. I'm not talking about that. I'm saying when we have a sober mind and our mind is alert, it doesn't matter what our tendencies are to do, we're going to be able to respond in prayer. Therefore, be alert and of sober mind so that you may pray. Above all. But I'm hungry. No, above all. No, but I need to. No, above all. Above all, love each other. And in case you don't know what kind of love I'm talking about, let me just say, love each other deeply. Above all, love each other deeply. We could just pause right there and just ask ourselves, do we do that? Do we love each other deeply? Do we love our spouse deeply? Do we love our children deeply? Do we love others deeply? Do we love deeply? If not, we're missing the above all. Above all, love each other deeply. I love the way that the Message reads or says this. Before anything else, love one another. Love each other as if your life depended on it. This is loving without stopping. This is love being stretched out. This is an active love. How many of you grew up with the father figure where it's like, well, he just showed his love this way? My dad didn't show love. He didn't say he loved me. We some of us or some people are raised in that way. This is the importance of the Word of God shaping you, not your upbringing shaping you. Let the Word of God shape you on how you're supposed to love, and let go of what you were brought up with. Unless it was good, but if it was bad, let go of what you were raised up with. And above all, love each other deeply. Say it, do it, live it out, express it, show it, but love each other deeply. Love deeply. It's kind of the platform. It's a second platform. So the end of all is the end of everything is coming. And so with that understanding, we should love each other deeply. And what loving each other deeply does is it covers a multitude of sins. It helps us to see beyond what people are doing and just see them as people, see them as people who belong to God. And then it says, offer hospitality to one another without grumbling. Man, why couldn't you just say offer hospitality? Offer hospitality without the grumbling. Have any of you ever served somebody begrudgingly? Students, young people, how many of you have ever done chores around the house? I want to do this. None of us have ever said anything under our breath while serving people. But I don't want to serve them. On Friday, we went, I'm not going to say the creamery, but we went to a creamery out near Sandusky, and it's an old one, so some of you probably know who it is, but an ice cream shop should be the happiest place on earth, right? Other than church. So we go, and we go to this particular creamery, and it was like, obviously for Aubrey's birthday, and I love excuses to get ice cream, and so we go in there, and it was really overwhelming. Nobody prepared us for how overwhelming going there would be. And there's amazing flavors and all this kind of stuff. And so it started from the moment we walked into the door, very bizarre. I would think of the easiest place to show hospitality, it would be at an ice cream shop. And nobody behind the counter was smiling. It's like they had just had a team meeting and the owner just chewed them all out for living, and now they came back out to serve people, and they're just like, and so we come up to them and they're like, has anybody helped you yet? No. And so I said, can I try a sample of one of these flavors? And they're like, there's your sample. And so I was so overwhelmed by all the flavors, right? So then I go, could I get like one more sample of this? And they're like, each customer is only allowed one sample. Okay. Got it. I guess I'll just try something that I haven't tried before. So then we're going down the line, and everybody's getting their orders, and then somebody else goes, have you been helped yet? Like the tone and everything was just awkward, and the way they were serving it was like, why am I here today serving ice cream? So then we get to the end of the line, and they ring us up, and my mother-in-law, she's paying, and the guy who's doing the cash register, he goes, can you set that on the counter because I can't take it from you? Yeah, there you go. You touch the other end that my hand hasn't touched yet. And then Summer's ice cream was like all disformed and everything, and so she goes, can I have a bowl? He goes, I'm going to have to charge you 25 cents for that. And it was just, everything was so odd, and everything that was said without a smile. And I'm holding this ice cream, just wanting to do something with it. And then I'm being reminded of these verses that I'm studying for the week, and I'm just kind of cracking up on the inside, like, be hospitable without the grumbling. It's like we bothered them for eating ice cream at an ice cream store. Oh, I don't want us to be that way, okay? I don't want people to walk in here where they're like greeted by people like, oh, it's you. Welcome, I suppose. Here's your bulletin. It's going to be 25 cents. Do you have places to serve? Yeah. But we can only give one sample per person. So once you're there, you're stuck. I don't want us to be like our experience, and we're not, thankfully. And I say this often, that the people, they say that they literally feel like they're home when they come here. I love it. So let's keep on that thread. Let's be hospitable where grumbling isn't even introduced into the situation, right? And that's with everything that we do, whether we're setting up for an event or just anything. Every Sunday there's a setup that happens, and I love that we have people that love what they do, because I haven't heard yet that there's any grumbling involved with the setup. People don't grumble because you're here. Aren't you glad for that? How awkward of a thing would that be if you were met awkwardly and grumbly by coming here? It's not going to happen. We're not going to be that way. Be hospitable. That is rooted in a love that is for each other, a deep love. Be hospitable without the grumbling. Now listen, this next section is so important for every single person in here. Especially for those of you that you're like, I just don't know if I'm gifted. I'm just going to debunk that thought in one verse. I didn't, Peter did, okay? Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. This is a loaded verse, and I've broken it down in this way. Use whatever gift. Everybody say whatever gift. Whatever gift. No, you don't have to repeat me anymore. Okay, you're good. Whatever gift you've been given. Use whatever gift you've been given. If it's awkward hugs, then awkwardly hug people. Use whatever gift you've been given. And I think it's important that we understand that you have received it. It's not something that you have to go searching for. Like, I know I've been gifted. I just don't know where it is. You have it. You have been given. You've received a gift. I don't know what it is. I cook all the time, but I don't know what my gift is. I love talking with people, but I don't know what my gifting is. I just love to help kids understand, and be creative with scriptures. I don't know what my gifting is. It's not meant to be confusing. What do you love doing? What do you find yourself having a natural tendency to do, almost even in your sleep? Guess what? More than likely, you've been gifted to do that. Now what you can do is do that for the purpose of God. Man, how fun is that? I love how creative God is in the giftedness. I love watching people that are inclined musically, and they help others discover a passion for music. I like to bake, just mainly not because it's uber relaxing, but just because I like sweets. And I just like to eat cake. I can have my cake and eat it too. What's your gifting? What is it that you have been given, what you have received? Now, it's not just for yourself, like I just said about cake, but it's to serve others, and we are stewards of the gifts that God has given us. Let that land on your foot for a minute. For those of you that are not functioning and moving in the gift that has been given you, you're a steward of that gift. And it doesn't have to... How many of you at one point or another have felt like, I just don't know what my gift is? Anybody? It's okay to raise your hands. You're being honest with yourself. Several hands have gone up. We all, at some point, ask ourselves, God, how have you wired me? What is it that I'm supposed to do? The part about we're faithful stewards, we're stewards of God's grace that shows itself in various forms. God can use and work through anything. Please remember that and know that God can work through anyone doing anything. Several months ago, I shared a story about, now I heard this from another pastor. He was talking about this conversation that he had with a young person that had just accepted Christ. He was so excited, and he knew that he needed to be doing something for Jesus, and so he comes up to this pastor, and he's like, hey, I want to do stuff. I just don't know what I'm gifted to do. So the pastor said, well, what can you do? He says, I need to do cartwheels. You guys remember this story? And so the pastor's like, okay, we'll do cartwheels, but do them for Jesus. It sounds corny, doesn't it? That sounds like the most corny advice I would give to somebody. Do cartwheels for Jesus. Did you feel the Spirit speak to you? That's good. Do cartwheels for Jesus. So literally, he goes out to a park and he sees some kids and he's like, hey, you want me to show you how to do cartwheels? I think it might have worked out the other way around where he's just out there by himself doing cartwheels in a park. Most parents would shy their kids away from that person. Like, okay, time's up. It's time to have enough park time. Crazies are coming out. So these boys come up to me like, hey, I don't know how to do cartwheels. Can you show me how to do cartwheels? And he goes, yeah, I'll be more than happy to show you how to do cartwheels, but can I first, I'll show you how to do cartwheels if you first let me talk to you about Jesus. And they're like, okay. So he talks to them about Jesus. None happened that day. Then he just went on and he showed them how to do cartwheels. There's like 2 or 3 of them. The next day, they brought like, 10 of their friends. And they're like, hey, you showed them how to do cartwheels. Can you show me how to do cartwheels? Show us how to do cartwheels. And he's like, sure, but I just first need to talk to you about what Jesus did in my life recently. And they're like, okay, no problem. So he shares about Jesus, and then he shows all those kids how to do cartwheels. Before long, there were, 60-some kids out there. It might have been more than that. He was showing them how to do cartwheels, but he was first telling them about Jesus. And so he was leading people to a relationship with Christ before doing cartwheels. Y'all, if you've been gifted in something that's really bizarre, God can use it if you steward it wisely to reveal his grace. So do what you're gifted in. I'm telling y'all, some of y'all just, you make people feel at home. You make people feel at home because of your smile or the warmth of your personality. That's your gifting. And some of y'all others, you just know that you're not that person. Hi, welcome. It's not intended to be rocket science to figure out what you're gifted in. Use whatever gift you have received. The beautiful part about that is there's nobody that's excluded from this verse. Nobody's excluded from this verse. We all have been given gifts. Then he goes in and he specifies. First we had hospitality, and then it's whatever gift. And then he gives a few specifics. If anybody speaks. Now what's funny here, he says, if anybody speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. There are some in this room who are natural teachers. You love to make complex things simple, and you like to break things down for people to help them understand these different characteristics and truths about who God is. But the interesting thing about this is when it says anyone who speaks, that's just like me on Sunday mornings where I'm just talking. Or I'm hoping that's not the case, but there are people that just talk. But then when he comes back around and he says, if anyone speaks, let them speak as one who is speaking the words of God. It's very, the second part of that, the second speak, is concise truths. I'm reminded of Proverbs, I think it's Proverbs 10. Proverbs 10 says this in the Message version. The more talk, the less truth. The wise measure their words. Proverbs 10:19. Some of y'all in here, you might be withholding. And I don't know why this happens this way, but those that have the most, that are gifted to teach, they're sometimes the most shy. Stop being shy. Start stewarding the gift that God has given you, and help people see the truths that are written in the Word. It's not your soapbox moment. You don't have enough time to even stand on the soapbox because your truths that you're conveying are concise. Actually, it says divine, concise truth. That might even give you some comfort to know that you don't have to have a dissertation. You just speak something simple and profound and truthful and then move right on along. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength that God provides. If you're able to serve somebody on your own capacity and your own goodness, guess what? You haven't quite hit that mark yet of where you're depending on His strength to serve people. You know what they were overcoming a lot in this day and age? No different than where we are today. Prejudice, racism. For many people, it requires the strength of God to go to those who they wouldn't naturally go to. Serve. Serve with the strength that God provides. That's being reminded of who He is, His love for you. Leaning into the truth about who God is, that alone, that mindset, that understanding gives us all the capacity to serve in a way that doesn't make sense. You serve when you're tired. Now, I'm not talking about abusing yourself to the point where you're just having a mental and heart breakdown. I'm not saying that. But how many of you have helped meet a need and you knew that God had given you the capacity to do it? Otherwise, it wouldn't have happened. There's a couple in here that I'm not going to say their name because they just don't like to have their names mentioned. And so out of respect, there's a couple in here that I know that they live this every day of their life. And I know because I hear of ministry that happens through them. I also know their work schedule, their work week. And it makes no logical sense as to how much and what they're able to do with the time that's been given to them. They live this verse where they serve with the strength that God provides. And now here's the reason why. The reason why we serve that way and not out of our own capacity is so that in all things God may be praised through Christ Jesus. The glory is not on us. Be like, didn't I do a good job serving those people, meeting their needs? Look how good and golden of a person I am. That's not why we do what we do. That's not why we are active in selfless servitude. That's not why. It's very simple and basic, right? We serve and we love and we give so that our Heavenly Father can be glorified, because there's no reason and there's no excuse of our selflessness other than our understanding that Jesus was the ultimate selfless person ever, and He's living in me. And the best way that people can see that Jesus is living in me is because I'm selflessly serving others with the strength that God has given me. It's for His glory. It's for His credit. And people will be more blessed by this. People will be more blessed and they'll receive more when it's done through His capacity than just your own. I don't even know how to explain it. There's just a striking difference when things are done out of your strength or my strength versus His. I don't know if people can sense it. To Him be the glory and the power forever and ever. I meant to start off with a culture that we're going to be establishing here, and everybody, this will roll off your tongue as easy as family fellowship does. But we're borrowing this from another church, and we've heard from this. I don't even know what the church's name is. We just know that there's a church that does this, where it's pick three. Pick three. And here's the three. Pick a service. You picked one. You're in here. Pick a place to serve. And pick a group. If you want to grow, if you want to progress in your relationship with Christ, if you want to be surrounded by people that are pursuing and walking out their relationship with Christ, you've got to be involved more than just a Sunday morning. And again, I do know that people are just, there is this testing. I don't know how else to word it other than that. You're just trying to see if it fits. Once you've determined that this place not only is it for you, but you are for it, does that make sense? Then pick three. Pick a service. Pick a place to serve. And pick a group. Simple enough? Pick three. We're actually going to overtake a wall in the lobby that's going to have pick three on it. That way it'll be a weekly reminder and to a degree a level of accountability of whether or not we're living out the pick three. Now, some of you, I started jotting down or started letting my mind wander as to why we don't, why some might not serve. I think the human mind is a very, talking about the human mind is a very interesting field of conversation. I think there's something in all of us that we don't take a step forward into something, especially something that's unknown, because we fear looking ridiculous. I know I have not gone to people in the community that I've seen strangers. They're strangers to me because I don't know their name. I've not gone to them because I fear looking ridiculous in their eyes. There are, I don't know what else to call it other than things. You could call it interests or hobbies that I've not done because of the fear of looking ridiculous. Please don't let that hinder you to jump in and get involved in areas that you didn't expect. What I love about this morning, we're going to close out with a quick video on some folks that were interviewed on why they're doing and why they're serving. And I love what's conveyed in these interviews. And so I want you to direct your attention to the screen and listen to some of our family fellowship people.
It's kind of funny. I was just thinking as I was preparing for class today, actually, that I often feel closest to God when I'm here in the preschool room preparing for our lessons. And a lot of times the Lord will use the lesson that I'm preparing to teach the kids or to teach me something. And I always walk away with a pearl. Preschool is my favorite class. I think everyone knows that, but I love the 3 to 5-year-olds. They're just really curious and eager to learn, and they're just so loving and creative. And there's really great to see when they get it. You know, when you teach them a Bible truth and they walk away and they're able to apply it in their everyday lives.
When I first started, it wasn't like, I didn't really realize what I was getting into. It was just kind of they needed help, and I was like, sure, I'm free, why not help out? And then as I started doing it more, I realized how important it was. Like when I started, I didn't realize how important it was, but then once I'm like, this is important, yeah. If I had never started back here, I would have never known that I love kids as much as I do. I probably wouldn't be going to school for what I'm going to school for, to work with children, and it's just working in the clubhouse is how I realized that children are my calling.
I think food and drink bring people together, and that's where they usually hang out and talk, and I love being able to see the new faces and the faces that I know, and just even a quick hello, how you doing, and it can just make someone's day. I love it. It makes me feel good. I have met some of my best friends here, and meeting new people every day, every time I come here.
Having the opportunity to take care of them every week is just, it's so exciting because like God entrusted these kids to me, even if it's just for an hour every week, like they're in my care and I get to love on them. It's definitely helped with my anxiety because like I care about the kids more than I care about myself, so I'm not focused on like what could go wrong with me. I'm focused on just making sure they're safe and making sure I love them.
Probably when my kids were little, I just wanted to be with them, but as time went by, I realized that I actually loved all the kids and wanted to spend time with them and care about them. Just seeing changes the kids, individual kids have made, where they come in at one point, they're like going through things that kids shouldn't be going through or something, but you see God really working with them and seeing life changes. It's awesome. We're all called for some kind of ministry. Kids ministry might not be for everybody, but it is for somebody out there. So I didn't believe it was for me, and I've been here for 10 years, 11 years or something now. So
I think any frontline ministry is important, whether it be in your own home or wherever. We want to greet people with a smile and want to make them realize how much we enjoy them coming, and we're glad that they are here.
So I'm a little bit of a people person, and I just love to be with people. Even if you're not a people person, it may at first seem like a stretch to take you out of your comfort zone, but once you're doing it, you'll say, oh my goodness, I just love just meeting the new people. And we have tons of new people here, and it's exciting. it's a good place to be.
There's just not enough time in greeting time to get to everybody. And so those Sundays that I'm at the front door, it's really fun to greet all the friends, and then to greet all the people that are new, and just to know that they'll be welcome too.
I kind of do a cheat sheet in my phone, and I have a notepad where I can, when I meet someone, as soon as I get a chance, I will put in some notes about their name. If they have children, I will put that in. Oftentimes it does involve what their hair is like, because that's how I relate to people. If you can relate to people on that first name basis, they kind of feel important versus some people maybe want to shrink and not be noticed, but I think it means a lot if someone does remember their name.
It's like a family. Some you're closer to, and then you have the relatives that you don't know quite so well, but you're really happy to see them. And so it's like you're just excited for everyone to come, and then you're hoping to get to know those people even better.
To say, oh, I think I want to do something. This is once a month. It's not a huge commitment. You're going to be at church anyway, and you get to meet people.
If you have that tug at your heart to serve in any capacity, I would say to just jump in and serve, because you will enjoy it so much.
What I would encourage you in. I would encourage you to get past the concern of looking ridiculous. I would ask you or encourage you to step past the threshold of what is comfortable and walk by the comfort of your own personal capacity. I think we so stay with where we are comfortable with as it pertains to our own capacity to do something. Be reminded, we just read, serve with the strength that God gives. I want to let you in on a little secret. That serving, it is about meeting the needs of others. It's just about meeting needs. But here's the secret of what really happens. It does more for you than it does for those that you're serving. Summer and I will talk with folks who say, I just feel dry. I just feel dry. You know why you're dry? It's because you've only been eating, and we're supposed to overflow. We're supposed to let our life be an overflow. So a question that we will often ask is, are you serving anywhere? And it may not be 100%, but it's up there, that more than likely they're not serving. There's this rhythm that we have to walk. We've also talked to folks who say that they're dry because they're serving too much. There is a rhythm to this. He didn't say, hey, you guys just come and exhaust yourselves. He also didn't say, come and just sit down. So this morning, if you've not landed somewhere where you're serving, I want to encourage you with those things. We intentionally didn't provide a place for you to respond on the connection card, only in the prayer part. But we laid out again for the second week a taking action card. If you filled one out last week, you don't need to fill one out. Or if you feel like you put something down, you're like, oh, I wish I would have done this instead, then you can make that adjustment. But let me just give you guys a few moments to respond on the taking action card, so that we are a church of not only consumers, but contributors as well.